Coventry City were nearly in the Premier League for the 24-25 campaign, but lost in the playoffs. And this season, it started horribly wrong until they brought in Frank Lampard, who has completely turned the club's fortunes around with 10 wins in 17 games. But what if we added in a Wonderkid Frank Lampard to this Coventry side to play for his whole career for Coventry City? Well, that is exactly what I have done in Football Manager 2024, and we're going to be seeing if we can take Coventry to Champions League glory using Frank Lampard in the midfield. We are, of course, also doing this on an up-to-date database. Well, pretty up-to-date. We are starting in the 29th of January, where Coventry was sitting in 12th place on 38 points. It probably shows just how good Frank Lampard is doing, as I actually sat down and record this, they are on 50 points and in 7th place, right on the edge of the playoffs. So today, we are looking to make Coventry that playoff team, but as mentioned, there is a fun little twist of a Wonderkid Frank Lampard here at Coventry City, who I've gone through and created to be as realistic as what he was in real life. Of course, throughout this rebuild, he's going to stay with us the whole time, joining Chelsea in 2040, so until he is 34 years of age. Now, of course, he has 5-star potential. I said it's a 190 potential ability, so he will be one of the best central midfielders in the world, just like he was in real life. I gave him extreme consistency and decent ability in big matches as well. It's also going to be interesting to see if he can break into this current England team, because the England midfield is pretty damn good, even in terms of the Wonderkids. I mean, so far, Declan Rice, this says Mason Mount there, but Kobbie Mainoo, Jude Bellingham, Rico Lewis playing midfield, Curtis Jones. There is a lot of good English midfielders. Can we make Frank Lampard a Premier League midfielder and an England midfielder once again? Now, to kick things off, I am actually using a variation of sort of Lampard tactics in real life. He does play this sort of system. I'll be honest, I don't watch a lot of Coventry City. I completely tweaked my old Amorim system to be a bit like what I guess he would play. I've given him the Volante role because that's what I would assume he would do in a DM position in real life as a Wonderkid. That's what Lampard was, a box-to-box midfielder that scored lots of goals. 2 attacking wingers in Sakamoto and Rodoni, and we have a world-class striker up front in Haji Wright. His stats on FM are absolutely fantastic, and throughout this rebuild, he is going to prove himself to be a top-class player. We do also have an unbelievable right wing-back in Milan van Ejvik, a Dutch player with ridiculous speed and great crossing, so for this system, he is outrageously good. Jake Bidwell on the left-hand side, a fantastic crossing on him as well, and a brilliant defensive three of Liam Kitching, Labert Tudwer, that's probably horrendous, and Thomas with Ben Wilson in goal. Ben Sheaf also in DM next to Frank Lampard. A very strong side here at Coventry, and a real shame at the start of this season, because last year, as mentioned, so close to going up to the Premier League, but just missing out on the playoffs. Really poor start to this season, but for the first time in his managerial career, Frank Lampard has really turned the club around, and he's doing a fantastic job, to be fair to him, and I think it's going completely under the radar. Now, our goal, of course, for this season is to do what Lampard is doing in real life and turn this Coventry side into playoff contenders. It would be heartbreaking to losing the playoff back-to-back seasons, so going to the Premier League is a genuine chance with this Coventry side, so let's see if we can do it. But to kick things off, we need to talk about this prime Frank Lampard we have got in this Coventry side. I mean, look at that. That is exactly what we want him to do. Score screamers from the edge of the box, and he's going to score the second in this game against Coventry as well. You can see him in that Volante role doing exactly what I want him to do, scoring long-range screamers. It was an absolute joy to watch him in this game, and to be honest, it was his first game for us as well, as this was a 2-1 victory over Swansea at the start of February. And he wasn't the only one scoring a ridiculous amount of goals. I mean, just as a club, we were on some supreme form. He did grab the first in the next game of the season against Leeds United, but Haji Wright in this game came into his element. He grabbed his first there in this against Leeds in the 36th minute, cutting in off the left-hand side. Frank Lampard glides past Ethan Ampadu, drives the ball up wide to Jake Bidwell, who cuts it inside for that man Haji Wright once again, and it's only just half time. Backstick cross, Jake Bidwell scores 4-0 in 62, but it was time for Haji Wright, who had now moved in to the striker position, to grab his hat-trick. A great ball in behind, and he's bagged home, of course, a 5-0 victory against title contenders Leeds United. I think it's safe to say we've cooked up some fantastic Lampard tactics and a fantastic Lampard player. And a reminder, he's not a prime Frank Lampard right now. He's a 17-year-old wonderkid who is just performing fantastically well. 6 goals, 3 assists in 19 games with a 7.14 is pretty good going. And well, with them two being absolute bagsmen, it did take us all the way to the playoffs in the Championship. But we faced up against Sunderland and we scored an early goal thanks to Sagimoto to make it 1-0 in the 15th minute. And in the 44th, Bidwell scored once again to make it 2. And here at the Coventry City Stadium, we leave with a 3-0 victory as Matt Grimes finds Frank Lampard to score another absolute screamer. The second leg was a bit tighter with a 3-2 victory, but it was never really in doubt. 6-2 on aggregate, and we were going to the playoff finals where we were facing Middlesbrough, who took a 53rd minute lead thanks to Jick Steele, but just 2 minutes later, that man Haji Wright is going to get his name on the score sheet to level the game up as Mason Clark finds him in the box and took us to 1-1. In the 81st minute though, Milan Van Eljic runs down the right flank, gets all the way down into the byline, drills it in, Haji Wright scores, and Coventry are Premier League. In the first season, thanks to Frank Lampard's fantastic turnaround in form as a manager, we have managed to get Coventry into the Premier League after winning in the playoffs. And I tell you what, overall, this season, we were fantastic. We ended up on 74 points, just 16 points off the Premier League, well, the Championship second place, an automatic promotion, given we started this on around 38. That is pretty good going. Our form was absolutely fantastic. As mentioned, Lampard fired out of the gates to start off, 3 goals in his first 2 games, and Haji Wright grabbing a hat-trick as well. Overall, though, the team was just absolutely fantastic. Haji Wright, 16 and 3 assists. Takashiro Sakamoto was actually incredible with 18 goal contributions and a 7.12. He is a really good right winger, fantastic flair and dribbling technique, work rate, teamwork, and decent pace. I'm a little bit disappointed in myself that I don't know more about the Championship this season. I normally pride myself on my ball knowledge. I had no idea who this guy was. I don't even know where he came from, to be honest. He came from Oostersund in Belgium. What a player he looks like. I don't know if he's that good in real life, but wow, he was good in this game. Of course, Frank Lampard, an unbelievable season. Mason Clark on the left wing was decent. Jake Bidwell also decent. A bit of a shame for Ellis Sims. He didn't really perform as well as I hoped. We saw in the game against Leeds I showed, he led the line starting, but Haji Wright showed his goal scoring prowess pretty much instantly and instantly became our starting striker. Ben Sheaf is also someone that I'm really, really impressed with and looks absolutely fantastic. Looks to have come through the Arsenal Academy and is a brilliant, brilliant player worth £29 million. He is wanted by Burnley, Leicester and Al Nassr. I'm going to do everything I can to keep him in the club because he looks brilliant, and him next to Frank Lampard seems like a great duo, but he can also play in centre-back. Liam Kitchen is someone I've signed quite a few times on FM this year because he's a really good young Irish left centre-back. Bobby Thomas, Latif Boudoir was also good, and a youngster Norman Bassett was decent. I mentioned also Milan Van Eljic as an attacking right wing-back. I mean, he is literally outrageous. 10 assists this season, 23 games, and is someone that I am looking to probably keep with us for the whole of this rebuild. Now, financially, obviously, Coventry have had issues in the past, and that does show in game. We have just £2.5 million in the bank, despite just winning the most expensive game in world football. We do have a transfer budget of £36 million and a wage budget of £500,000, but I'm not going to go absolutely crazy. There is no debt on the club. There is very little transfer debt, but if we're going to rebuild this Coventry side properly, we don't need to go absolutely wild. The actual starting team is very, very good, and I can't see too many changes I want to make. I genuinely think now they have been pushing for Premier League football for 2 or 3 seasons, and they've built a really strong side in doing so as well. But let's see what we do for our first season in the Premier League for transfers. Just a quick mention that this save file at the start and at the end is going to be available to you legends that help support over on Patreon. It is £5 a month. You'll get access to the tactics we make on the channel, including the ones from the rebuilds and the rebuild files, and of course the edited data file for this as well. So if you're looking to do a Coventry City rebuild with a Prime Lampard in midfield, this is the perfect save file for you. For the rest of FM24, this could be great fun, £5 a month, and it helps support me out a ridiculous amount, and you can join the other 2,000 members of the Kempi army over on Patreon. Now, I don't think anyone had this on their Coventry City bingo cards. Paul Pogba and Frank Lampard in midfield. I've made it a reality. I don't really know why. The opportunity came up, £30,000 a week. The only issue I've got is if we are playing a dual DM system, he is very similar to Frank Lampard in creativity. Obviously, an absolute superstar at 31 years of age, coming back into football in the next couple of months in real life after a couple of years off, joining a newly promoted Premier League club could be where we see the best of Paul Pogba once again. And it's going to be exciting to have him and Frank Lampard in midfield. We're going to have to drop Ben Sheaf into centre-back, but I thought it was too good of an opportunity to not get. And for just 30k a week for 2 years, it was an absolute no-brainer. My next signing was picking off Ipswich's relegated left wing back Leif Davis. He is an absolute superstar and gives us a dual threat on either wing back. We now have Van Ejvik and Leif Davis, both 24 years of age, bombarding down the wing back positions, whipping balls in, and we're going to score so many goals because of our two fantastic wing backs. He also cost us just £15 million because they were relegated. He had a relegation release clause, so we're absolutely in the money. Next up was my winger signing of Hernan Lopez Munoz from San Jose in the USA. This guy looks like a fantastic left winger and can play really well as an inside forward. He has got great consistency, he likes big matches, good dribbling and good flair and decent pace, sort of matches up Sakimoto on the right wing. We have now a 5'6" Argentinian left wing who I'm hoping is going to be fantastic. And my final signing is the loan signing of Ronnie Edwards coming in from Southampton, obviously at QPR in real life for the remainder of the championship season on loan. It's time to bring Ronnie to the Premier League and he's going to be a superstar centre-back for us. It has cost us £1.3 million in loan fees. We've got an optional future fee of 32 million, but I'm hoping by the end of the season we can try and negotiate that. I'm a big fan of Ronnie Edwards in real life. He's either-footed and a real strong centre-back, and at the moment he's got an absolutely legendary head of hair as well. He looks like an absolute hero in that QPR defence. This is the current Coventry team though, and I have made a change in goal. I have brought up Oliver Dovin from the under-21s to be our brand new goalkeeper. He is young, he's 21 years of age, and I think he will be good enough for the next couple of seasons to keep us in the Premier League. Ronnie Edwards goes into our right centre-back role with Liam Kitchen on the left. Ben Sheaf is that middle centre-back looking to really be our ball player. As mentioned, our two fantastic wing-backs in Davis and Van Ejvik with Lampard and Pogba in DM. I've gone for a more creative duo rather than a ball winning duo. Hopefully they can just help get the ball to the inside forwards in Sakimoto and Lopez Munoz, and of course our figurehead up front, Haji Wright, looking to be our goal scoring machine. The board are simply looking for us to fight bravely against relegation. I think we can do a bit better than that. The media placed us as 20th place and heavily behind Sheffield United and Burnley, obviously being the team that came up from the playoffs. That's probably to be expected, but let's go out there and prove everyone wrong, just like Coventry have done now for a few seasons. Now, I think it's safe to say an 18-year-old Wonderkid Lampard struggled a little bit in the Premier League this season, grabbing just 4 goals and 3 assists and is 6.77 in quite a big decline from his unreal season last year. The more and more I think about it, the signing of Paul Pogba may have actually hurt Frank Lampard's performance, as he now isn't just the only creative DM in there and he has to sort of sit back if Paul Pogba goes forward. But Pogba did grab 8 assists in 43 games, and I certainly still don't regret adding in the very random twist of a midfield duo in a Coventry rebuild of Lampard and Pogba. But there were some things which carried on from last season. Attacking wing-backs grabbing assists and Haji Wright being an absolute bagsman. Leif Davis supplying the first for Wright to score, and the second, Ronnie Edwards is going to find Van Ejvik, who finds Sakimoto to put it in for 2-0. Both wing-backs grabbing assists, a striker and our right winger grabbing the goals. But was it going to be enough for Premier League safety? Well, our form to start the season was actually not too bad. We beat Bournemouth and Fulham in the opening couple of games of the season, but overall, there was a hell of a lot of losses. And as we got through December without winning a single game, we really needed to turn our form around, but we actually didn't win another game all the way until March, where we then beat Sheffield United 1-0, Nottingham Forest 1-0, and Newcastle 4-2. Were them victories and the ones earlier on in the season gonna be enough to secure us our Premier League safety? Yes, they were, by the skin of our teeth. We were 3 points above now relegated Everton, who finished on 29 points, which is awful. Bournemouth on 27, having a massive fall off, and Sheffield United doing classic Sheffield United things, getting relegated from the Premier League and then probably winning the Championship and then getting relegated from the Premier League over and over again. But we survived on 32, which is nowhere near good enough for what we need to be doing, but I'll certainly take it for our Premier League safety. Minus 42 goal difference as well. Maybe shows that Oliver Dovin wasn't the correct shout to put in goal. If we just thought this by the players that played, I locked Dovin into that goalkeeper position. He played 46 games, grabbed a 6.8 average rating, but did concede 88 goals, which is a little bit outrageous. That is a hell of a lot, but we'll see. He could be someone we keep around and stick in goal, or we move on and make him our backup. I'm not too sure just yet. Our best player this season in terms of average rating was Leif Davis and Milan Van Evcik as the top two. Pogba actually coming in third place. Dovin, Matt Grimes and Frank Lampard coming in for the rest. But as mentioned, all of our goals coming from Haji Wright. 18 this season, a 6.75, and now worth £35 million. He is now obviously about to go into the World Cup next season as well. So let's hope this injury, which is a torn hamstring, isn't too bad for him and he can come back next season as a top player. Financially, not going crazy last season, only spending 25 million helped us massively. We now have 65 million pounds in the bank, another big transfer budget and a nice big wage budget as well, with of course no debt on the club. The club is actually pretty good in terms of its position as a club. 3.5-star training facilities and youth facilities. Pretty poor youth recruitment, which I am going to look to improve, but I'm not going to be that angry if we don't improve it too much. I'm more looking to build a club which can sustain itself in the Premier League. Hopefully we can go out and sign some hidden Wonderkids like I have in the previous rebuilds as well, and build up our own youth dynasty rather than investing too much into the facilities. Another very quick thing to mention, Manchester United just got 103 points and 33 wins in 38 games. They're managed by Unai Emery. Maybe that's what we need, because Rashford is back cooking for the club apparently, and United are back on top. I'm about to release a video in the next coming days where I relegate United down to the Championship. So if you are interested in that video, subscribe to the channel. It is going to be an absolute banger. I've done pretty much all of the simulation as well already, and it is so fun. It's actually unbelievable. So if you want to watch that video, that's coming out in the coming days. Make sure you sub to the channel for that one. But for now, it's time to turn our attention to this season. We are not going to be re-signing Ronnie Edwards because they would not budge from that £32 million budget. So instead, I signed one of the Premier League's best centre-backs this season, Dean Huyson from Bournemouth, for £28 million. Now, in this variation of FM I'm running, he is more of a high-potential wonderkid with decent playing ability. I'm going to lock him into one of them centre-back positions, and we're going to make Dean an absolute superstar. My next signing was a young striker in Adrian Tilano, signed from RSC Anderlecht. Now, this guy cost us just £925,000 after playing 15 games for Anderlecht last season. He is a deep lying forward, and you're going to see me sign some more strikers because we are making a pretty wild formation. So the next striker as another deep lying forward is Stanis Pedrola, signed from Sampdoria for just £8.5 million and already worth up to 39. Before signing my spearhead striker in Fernandinho, I'm looking for this guy to be an absolute bagsman for us. He is 24, he is 6'3", he has decent speed, good jumping reach, extreme consistency, and great in big matches. Don't worry, Haji Wright is going nowhere. He is going to be our other starting deep lying forward. That does make 3 strikers. So we signed some more midfield and defensive options as well. Number one was a bit of a random one. Paddy McNair signed from San Diego FC to just be a backup central defensive midfielder. Number two is young attacking left back Max Finkgraf from FC Cologne for £2.3 million. Javi Rodriguez was my next centre back signing from Vigo for 1.8. And then I made two clever free agent pieces of business. Number one was Bright Osei Samuel, released from Fenerbahce but is homegrown in the nation. And so is Jamal Lascelles to come in and be an experienced centre-back rotational option. Now, as mentioned, we are changing formation and we are going to a 3-striker, 3 central midfielder, 4 defender formation. Now, this I've made because I think this is the way we get the best out of our star players, and I'm going to explain to you why. Now, of course, we are keeping Oliver Dovin in goal. We are leaving the right wing position and the left wing position purely to Leif Davis and Van Elschvik, with our 2 central defenders of Dean Huyson and Liam Kitching sitting at the base. Sheaf is going to sit as an anchor just in front as well, with Lampard looking to be a central midfielder on attack, bursting into the box and scoring lots of goals, with Pogba more as an advanced playmaker for the club, again picking up these free roaming positions, linking up with Van Elschvik and being a dangerous midfielder. My guess is these 3 strikers are going to be a little bit weird, but my aim is for both Lopez Muniz and Pedroiola, or of course Haji Wright and Pedroiola, to rotate into these positions, link up with the midfielders, and eventually leave space for Lampard to join Firmino as a goal-scoring option in the box. Now, of course, it all sounds a little bit mental, but in the match engine, I sort of presume it's going to look something a bit like this, where our strikers are going to drop into this position, but because Lampard is on that centre mid on attack, he's actually going to burst past Pedroiola, and we look a little bit like this, which is absolutely mental, I know, but I think it could work absolute wonders, and I want to see what it's like. I don't want to just plug in a 4-2-3-1 for this rebuild. I am looking to get the best out of a prime Wonderkid Frank Lampard and make him as good as we possibly can. And last season's poor moments in the Volante role was pretty weak. I'm looking to do a lot better than that this season, and this role suits him down to a T. We saw in the first season his long-range goals were unbelievable. His finishing ability is pretty good, so let's see if we can get him in amongst it and scoring some goals for us. Now, this season, of course, again, predicted bottom of the league. I'm not surprised whatsoever, but it's time to take over and turn Coventry into a genuine mid-table Premier League side. Now, this formation absolutely cooked from day one. Wing-backs whipping it in, deep lying forwards being in space. Haji Wright scoring again from across into the box. Mason, a ridiculous ball in. Van Elschvik picks it up, and guess what? Finds Haji Wright to score once again. He was playing in the deep lying forward position, and he was unbelievable. A Paul Pogba corner finds Mason Clark to find Lampard, back to Mason Clark to make it 3 in a dominating 4-0 victory against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Haji Wright this time turns provider to the left-hand side, finding Stanis Pedroiola in the box. And that wasn't our only win this season. In fact, this season was absolutely fantastic. The signing of Firmino proved to be a masterstroke, same as a Stanis Pedroiola, and keeping our wing-backs being influential was absolutely massive. And it got us to where I wanted to be as a mid-table Premier League club on 52 points with just a -4 goal difference, and Haji Wright being in the top 4 in goal scorers is unbelievable to see. I mentioned at the start of this rebuild, I wanted to make this guy an absolute superstar. We are now going into the American World Cup, where I hope Haji Wright leads the line for them, because this season, unbelievable. 17 goals, 34 games, a 7.06. And he wasn't the only one as well. Pedroiola grabbed 14 and 8 assists, and Firmino 10 goals and 5 assists. This season, however, was a little bit weird in our midfield. I was not planning on keeping Pogba at the club this season. He is now 33. His contract runs out this year, but I'm going to have to renew it. 11 goals and 4 assists in 33 games, and was absolutely dangerous. Compared to Frank Lampard, who didn't score a single goal and got just 5 assists, He's now 19 years of age, and I'm not seeing the level of progression that I wanted to see. Now, of course, we're not giving up on him. Frank Lampard is going to become an absolute superstar, but a couple of seasons of getting used to Premier League football, I hope that by the end of next year, he is going to be a superstar. He is tagged as a Wonderkid, which is very, very helpful. That's what we need him to be. We need him just to show that little bit more progression. 6.84 is decent and certainly improved on last year, but I made this system for him and it's not really done what I wanted it to. Now, for the rest of the team, it was pretty much as expected. Van Ejvik, 7 assists. Leif Davis, 10 assists. Even Max Vingrafe as the backup left-back grabbed 6. Ben Sheaf as their anchor in DM grabbed 10 goal contributions and a 6.94, showing he really could be a Premier League quality defensive midfielder in real life, which is awesome to see going through at Coventry. He looks really, really good. Ben Wilson, 8 games this season, didn't play too many because Oliver Dovin, again, took the goalkeeping position. 35 games, a 6.87, conceding just 67 is certainly improvement. But if we want to be a European team, I do think we need someone a little bit better. I am really, really surprised by this season. I didn't expect to do this well using this wild of a formation, and it's been really fun to use something like this. Dean Hyson progressed really well this season as well. Now a 3.5-star player and a top tier centre back. I'm not going to move away from this system, I don't think, for the rest of the rebuild. I want to try and make a free striker formation work and turn us into one of the best clubs in the world. So by the end of this rebuild, you'll also have an unbelievable tactic if you do want to pick it up on Patreon. Now, the FA Cup, we got to the quarter-final and got knocked out by Everton, and the Carabao Cup, a poor performance, losing to Milton Keynes Dons. But overall, that's the first time I've touched the FA Cup and Carabao Cup because it's not been important up until now. I now want to see if we can really grow ourselves to being a cup competition winner, and also, of course, next season it might be a long shot, but I do think we can get into the top 8. We are just 5 points away from Newcastle, and normally that 8th position does give a Europa Conference League position. Forest got it this season for winning the Carabao Cup, so we don't get it. But if next season a random team doesn't win the Carabao Cup and we come 8th, I think we can get our first season in European football, and I don't think we're that far away. Financially, we're absolutely golden, and we've built a bit of a powerhouse. We have £90 million to spend and 71 in the bank, so let's see what we can do. So I wanted to carry on the tradition of not going too wild on transfers. So my number 1 signing was Yohan Boni coming in from Parma to be another rotational striker. Before signing our starting goalkeeper and probably the star goalkeeper for the whole of this rebuild, James Trafford joins Coventry from Burnley for 35 million, but as probably England's number 1 in the next couple of years and a top tier goalkeeper with consistency and joy of big matches, he will be absolutely perfect for us. My penultimate signing was Icelandic midfielder Isaac Johansson, signed from Dusseldorf for £20 million to come in and replace Paul Pogba, but hopefully not replace what we need Frank Lampard to do. This guy seems to be more of like a utility, well-rounded box-to-box player, which should leave Frank to go and score some goals. And my final signing is centre-back Roberto Fernandez from Paraguay, signed from Dynamo Moscow for just 4.6 million, which is an absolute bargain for a player of his quality. Now, the team looks like so. James Trafford comes into goal with the back 4 of Van Ejvik, Davis, Fernandez and Huysen. Sheaf in front with Johansson and Lampard, with Pedrola, Wright and Fernandinho making up the front 3. We do, of course, still have Oliver Dovin as the backup, or say Samuel Kitching, Javi Rodriguez, Fingraf, McNair, Grimes, Pogba, Tilano, Boni and Lopez Munoz as the backup players. This season, I think we can get European football. As mentioned, I'm looking for top 8. Of course, last season we finished 10th. I think this year, though, hopefully top 7 or 8, getting at least Conference League football and maybe a trophy as well. Well, getting a trophy isn't going to happen. We got knocked out in the 2nd round of the Carabao and 3rd round of the FA Cup. So pretty poor on the trophy front. But in the league, our consistency was much, much better. And we started to see the best of Haji Wright and Frank Lampard once again. We won games in September and October and won nearly every game in December, despite a 1-0 loss to Crystal Palace to kick things off. While January was a little bit ropey, our form overall was pretty damn good. The second half of the season, we turned into an absolute force. We beat clubs like Manchester United, drew to City, and by the end of the season, we're beating Arsenal to hopefully secure our European space. Which is exactly what we've done by quite a long stretch. This is not what I expected coming into season number 4, but Coventry, our Champions League, this is way too high. We are going to get absolutely battered in the Champions League, but it probably shows what a great tactic we have made, which is pretty awesome. Haji Wright, 20 goals in the Premier League once again. Top goal scorer, Kai Havertz. Incredibly unrealistic this game. Firmino with 7 player of the matches as well is awesome to see. And Coventry, Champions League. I mean, I'm not sure if we have scored a lot of goals. 76 goals, in fact, and conceded, we're not quite there. We also don't keep a lot of the ball. So we're just an exciting goal-scoring club who don't actually take a hell of a lot of shots, which is good to see. We are just pretty decent in front of goal. Haji Wright, Firmino, Pedrola scoring them goals. And Coventry, 66 points, which is, I think, 14 better than last season and only 1 point away from 4th place. Not that that matters because the top 6 has got Champions League football. And we're going to be in the Champions League, which just feels very weird. Financially, we're okay. We've got 60 million in the bank, 72 in transfer budget. But we know how good Champions League football can be for finances for a club. Now, this season, Frank Lampard has seemed to take a massive step in his development. A 6.91 average rating, 10 goal contributions, and stats-wise just looks a lot better. A few more yellow stats in there, and overall looks very, very well-rounded. 13 under 21 caps for England, but as I expected, not yet breaking into the England national team. The midfield is Conor Gallagher and Declan Rice, and you might think, oh, Conor Gallagher, he's worth £174 million Atletico Madrid and has got a 7.16, so he's absolutely smashing it. Jude Bellingham, of course, playing in the cam role. Foden can play there. Mainu can play there. I mean, John Stones can even play in DM. Trent can play in DM. Rico Lewis can play in DM. So it is a very, very difficult team to break into. But Lampard could do it. It is going to take some time, but he is growing into a really top talent in midfield. As for the rest, I'm just so impressed by Haji Wright, grabbing 21 goals in 37 games this season. Firmino, who I thought was a bit of a risk signing a couple of years ago after a couple of decent seasons with Burgos, is proving me correct for signing him every single time. 24 goal contributions in 38 games, cost us just £9 million and has just had an unreal season. I wouldn't be surprised to see if he does start to play for the Spanish national team. And his Spanish mate, Estanis Pedrola, is also doing really well in that deep lying forward role, 16 goal contributions, and is turning into a real top class talent. Overall, with this team, I am just very impressed that we have managed to keep the consistency to secure Champions League football. As mentioned, I'm not sure if we've created an absolute demon on the tactics front, or if we have just made some very clever piece of business and used what is good at Coventry. Our attacking wingbacks in Van Ejik and Davis are outrageously good. Our midfield partnership is very strong, and having Ben Sheaf in DM has been really good. Now, this season is probably going to be his last as a starter. He is now 30 years of age and probably looking to move on from him, but he's been really good. Our centre-backs of Hyson and Liam Kitching also been very good. I mean, Hyson really progressing well into a superstar, which is awesome to see. So we'll see what we can do. I mean, Champions League football is going to be very tough. We're not ready to win the Champions League at all. But if we can secure European football once again next season, while grabbing the money and the reputation of playing in the Champions League, that could set us up to become an absolute powerhouse. So, of course, signings-wise, it allowed us to go that little bit further and poach Ethan Nwaneri from Arsenal. This signing is one I am a massive, massive fan of. This kid is so special in real life, and we're going to now see him at Coventry. He is going to be perfect for this deep lying forward role as well. If we actually sort this by his stats, he suits it so well. He is consistent. He's made his England debut, and he's a wonder kid. And it's pretty cool that we're bringing some of the best English talent to this club, rather than just filling it with random nation players that don't fit the bill. The players like Ethan Nwaneri are so important to building a strong Premier League team. Next up is Brazilian wonderkid, 18-year-old Luis Enrique, that I am so excited to see how he progresses. This guy cost us just £10 million, and he is outrageously good. He could be... I mean, he is almost like the second coming of Paul Pogba. He's 6'2", great jumping reach, great balance, great work rate, great technique, good ball playing ability. and could be an absolute talent. His stature reminds me of Pogba, and Pogba has just left the club with his contract going out, so we could see a Brazilian demon in our midfield in the coming years. And finally, it was time to get Big Dean a centre-back partner. So Beraldo is the man I brought in from PSG. We are bringing in some of the best Wonderkids in world football here to Coventry to make an absolute powerhouse. 7 caps for Brazil already at 23 years of age. This team is ridiculous. I'm sticking with Ben Sheaf in DM and Hadji Wright up front and Venedic as the right wing back. 3 Coventry players taking us to Champions League football. That's pretty awesome, I've got to say. So let's see what we can do for our first year in the UCL. Well, the knockout playoff round was as difficult as expected. We finished in 21st place, but secured knockout playoff football, winning 3 games against Salzburg, PSV and Djurgardens, drawing to BAOK and losing to teams that we would probably expect to lose against. Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich, PSG and Chelsea. It was interesting to see if we could sneak our way into the round of 16. Well, the team we were going to be facing was going to be Juventus, and to be honest, they were just way too good for us. I didn't expect us to get Champions League football in season number 4, so in season 5 to be playing Champions League football wasn't in my plan. We did lose to Juventus, quite convincingly 6-3 in aggregate, but I was very proud of this Coventry side, and I think it just puts us in good stead for years to come, as long as we can secure European football for next season. Now, once again, that was not going to come in the way of winning trophies, as we lost to Southampton in the quarters of the FA Cup and Brighton in the 3rd round of the Carabao. So once again, we had to look to our league form. Now, being 5 seasons into a Coventry rebuild and being on the cusp of Champions League football and securing European football in back-to-back seasons was not what I expected, using Hadji Wright up front, let alone Hadji Wright grabbing 19 goals and being our star striker, sending us into European football once again. We finished in 6th place on 63 points, just 3 points less than last season, despite playing an extra 10 games of European football. We have built a very strong side, and also awesome to see Milan Van Evjic is 3rd in the average ratings list, proving that these Coventry players they've got in real life are genuine top tier. 13 assists for us this season. Absolutely brilliant to see. We have got Europa League football next year, not quite Champions League, but I do think that is better for us. It gives us more of a chance to win a European competition, and of course the finances of being in the Champions League, is a massive boost. We're up to £78 million once again, and the squad is looking really, really good. Lampard once again 10 goal contributions this season, and the exciting thing has finally happened. He has become a full England international, which is awesome to see. He is progressing so well. Not quite putting it on the stat sheets, but still having Lampard in midfield is pretty handy to have in this rebuild, and definitely was worth me doing. Leif Davis 16 assists this year, Milan 13, which is awesome, and goals wise Hadji Wright 19, Firmino 14, and this year's new signing Ethan Nwaneri grabbed 17 goals and 3 assists in his first season here at Coventry. An absolute superstar and suits that deep line forward role so well. So I'm excited to see what he can do for years to come, but let's get into our next transfer window. Well, why not carry on bringing in some of England's best young talents? I didn't even mention this guy when talking earlier about English wonderkid midfielders. Harvey Elliott joins the club for £6.5 million. An absolute stupid fee joining from Liverpool, and he's absolutely fantastic, which hurts me a lot. I'm a United fan. I hate Harvey Elliott, but he is a supreme talent on FM and looks so good. And I never actually have managed to use him before, so I'm quite excited to see what he can do for us in this team and to see if he can battle with a prime wonderkid Frank Lampard. And my only other signing is Vitor Roque. Now, I'm a massive fan of Vitor Roque in real life. In fact, I tend to collect his rare football cards of his for some reason. He is my go-to guy, and I've had the opportunity to sign him for Coventry. He has played 1 game for us this season already and scored straight away in the Premier League. He cost us £40 million from Barcelona, but is an outrageous goal scorer. And on FM, I have seen him turn into one of the best strikers I've ever seen. So let's see if we can make him that in this rebuild. And that was it for our signings. They are literally the only 2 players I have brought in. The rest of the team is pretty good. We have been really clever at building this Coventry team, not putting us into too much financial debt, signing a lot of English players with high value, and really just building a powerhouse of Wonderkids. James Trafford, Van Evjik, Hyson, Beraldo, Davis, Sheaf, Johansson, Lampard, Vitor Roque, Nwaneri and Nino are going to lead the line as we look to take Coventry to a European trophy, winning the Europa League. But before we get there, we've got to talk about the FA Cup, where we find ourselves in the semi-final against Liverpool, and a slightly debatable goal there from Mo Salah makes it 1-0, but in the 53rd minute, we level the game up as Luis Enrique rises high to score our header. Now that does take us all the way to extra time and penalties, where they scored their first, we scored our first, before Cody Gakpo stepped up for Liverpool, missed his penalty, while we didn't miss a single one. So we move on to the final of the FA Cup against Manchester United, where it was a true battle of the strikers. Vitor Roque scored from the spot to give us the 1-0 lead, and we went 2-0 up thanks to Johan Bonney at the back post. But Manchester United struck back with Rasmus Højlund scoring to make the game 2-1. And with 15 minutes to go, I wasn't sure if United could level the game up, but they couldn't. And Coventry have won the FA Cup, which means we have got automatic qualification for the Europa League next season, so it doesn't really matter how we do there. But of course, I still wanted to give a good showing, and how does top place sound? 7 wins, 1 draw in 8 games. Pretty damn good, I suppose. We move on into the round of 16. We faced up against Gothenburg and beat them 8-2 on aggregate. The quarterfinals was a game against Basel, 8-2 on aggregate. And the semi-finals was a game against Feyenoord, 8-1 on aggregate. We were absolutely dominating and set up a final against Benfica, where we didn't quite score 8 goals. In fact, it took us all the way to the 121st minute for Haji Wright to score a header in a Europa League final and make Coventry champions of the Europa League. I mean, what a story it has been for this absolute legend. He started just 1 game this season, played 10 off the bench, and scored just 3 goals. And one of them is the biggest goal he will ever score, and his last ever game and last ever goal for Coventry as he leaves the club at the end of the season is to give us a Europa League trophy, which is mental. Now this season we finished 10th in the Premier League. We'll step on that in just a second. But I want to see if he is managed to get himself into this Legends list. It doesn't look like he has actually. In fact, he's not even an icon. James Maddison is an icon before Haji Wright. Even though Haji Wright just scored in the Europa League final. That is absolutely disgusting. I mean, I've nearly just dropped the Steam Deck. That's how angry I am. That is actually mental. I can't believe that. That is our first trophy vote since 1987, which is absolutely awesome. I'm in absolute shock that he's not at least an icon in this club. I mean, Gustavo Hamer's an icon, but Haji Wright isn't. I mean, we have just finished 10th. Positive goal difference, which is good, at 51 points, which is a little bit of a drop-off, but to be expected with all of them extra games. And a double title-winning season is ridiculous. Pedrola grabbed 27 this season. Vanino grabbed 19, while Nwaneri grabbed 13. And that man, Frank Lampard, played just 20 games. He had some pretty severe injuries this season, and it has now become a bit of a recurring issue. He has now made, though, 4 caps to the England team and is, of course, a top-tier centre-back. But he needs to get himself back in that starting lineup because, to be honest, Johansson has been great for us, and Luis Enrique has developed into a real star in midfield. 20 jumping reach. We saw that with one of the goals against United or Liverpool, where he's a lengthy header at the back post, leaped above everybody and scored. And that is becoming big for us. 18 goal contributions this season is awesome to see. 15 assists for Milan, 12 assists for Leif Davies. It is time, though, to see if we can make this team a consistent Champions League squad. And the best way I know to do that is to sign a bunch of Wonderkid regens. Using my hidden regen scouting method, we're going to go and sign a whole bunch and loan them back out and make a Wonderkid farm. Number 1, Emilio Britos comes in from Serena Porteño in Paraguay. 17 finishing, 17 determination, 6 foot tall, consistent, cat for Paraguay already. If you want to know how to find players like this, there is a video on the channel released last week called Hidden Regens. Give that a watch and you'll find a bunch of players like I'm about to show you. Denis Avramenko was up next, a right-back Ukrainian who looks absolutely fantastic going forwards. Vitsefel is up next, a Czech left winger who looks very good and was very cheap. So getting the value of £12 million would be a massive dub. Thabang Makwazani is a player from South Africa, which recently has become my favourite place on the game to find regens from. He is outrageous, very good defensively, 18 determination, 18 caps for South Africa already. Give it a season and look how good this guy is going to be. And finally, not Fabrizio Romano, Francisco Romano, a Mexican right winger with outrageous speed, determination and finishing ability, comes in for a grand fee of just 7.75 million. He's already worth 51. And actually, there is one more because he actually comes straight into the squad as a rotational striker. It is 6'4", Argentinian demon Ruben Peralta. 16 finishing, 13 composure, good pace. This guy is going to be a menace. And finally, a signing that isn't a hidden regen. It's Adam Wharton from Crystal Palace. He is the perfect anchor man to replace Ben Sheaf. Which now means the team looks like so, with Peralta taking that striking position with Pedrola and Nwaneri either side. Lampard, Elliott, Wharton, a fantastic English midfield with Davis, Milan, Huijsen, Moraldo and Trafford in goal. We have, of course, now got a bunch of young players out on loan, which is really good for us because it's been quite tough to get anyone of real quality through the academy into this team. We've currently got Stefan Van Selm, who is one of them, who looks nowhere near as good as any of the strikers we've just signed for like £3 million. So it is such a good way of building up your youth. Of course, this season, Champions League, Premier League, Super Cup, FA Cup, Carabao Cup and Community Shield, Coventry were absolutely massive. And well, to be honest, Season 7 was a bit of an anticlimactic season. I genuinely thought we were going to win the Premier League this season. I thought Peralta up front was going to be the hidden piece. We've actually won we've won the Super Cup, which is a competition to win. We have also secured Champions League football with 74 points, and it is a very good season. Of course, we are only in 2030. We have taken Coventry from a playoff potential side in the Championship to being a consistent Champions League team and one of the best in England. We nearly retained our FA Cup, getting to the semi-finals and lost to Spurs, and our Carabao Cup is just impossible to win, apparently. But what really surprised me this season was Firmino. I feel like I replaced him. I feel like Peralta was his replacement, and he went and bagged 32 goals in 46 games. What a player. If you guys are looking for a striker to come in and just score you a whole bunch of goals consistently in the Premier League, this is your guy. Don't worry about regens. Firmino is him. The rest of the goals, I mean, Peralta did come second in 14, Nwaneri with 13, but we really noticed a big drop-off in Estanis Pedrola, who scored just 5 and got 5 assists, which is a big shame. Lampard, another 8 goal contributions, 23 years of age, now a mainstay in that England team. It's safe to say, not quite as good as real-life Lampard, but he's only 23. And he's still pretty damn good, isn't he? He's obviously joining Chelsea in a few years' time. I say a few years, another like 10 years' time in this save. So if you guys are going to pick this up, you are going to have Lampard for a long time. Luis Enrique, brilliant. Vitor Roque, brilliant rotational striker for us. And the loanees done very, very well. Thabang Makwazani, a 6.98, and he's now worth £51 million. And a decent Premier League centre-back, remember, signed for just £850,000. Denis Avramenko is now £38 million, been out on loan at Dnipro, a decent season, signed for just £4.8 million. Francisco Romano, so used to saying Fabrizio, is now of £82 million. Signed for just £7 million is an absolute steal. And finally, Vitsefel, out on loan at Slavia Prague. A bit of a miss, to be honest, but on a hit rate of 1 of 5, we spent £17 million and raised about £200 million in Wonderkids if we wanted to sell them. So I think it's safe to say Coventry next year is the year we are going for it all. So I only made 3 more signings. I wanted a homegrown goalkeeper, so Sinsalo comes in. He has played all of his career over in Scotland and recently become the Celtic #1. So he comes in as our backup keeper. Patrick Dorgu joined United so young. He is now homegrown and looks great. He can certainly rotate with Leif Davis now in the year 2030 at 25 years of age. And finally, I brought in another English wonderkid in Lewis Miley to join the midfield English trio we have got and comes in as a very good rotation option. Now this season, I am changing formation ever so slightly. I am dropping one of the deep lying forwards to be an attacking midfielder, suits Ethan Nwaneri a tiny bit more, and giving it a more approach for Nino and Peralta to be our two advanced forwards, two pivots, keeping that attacking wing backs, keeping that midfield trio of Wharton, Elliott, Lampard, and actually now Nwaneri in there, another Englishman. We have got 5 Englishmen in this starting lineup: Trafford, Wharton, Lampard, Elliott, and Nwaneri. 2 very good young centre-backs in Peralta and Huijsen. Milan still in the team from day one. The only player still surviving. Dorgu at left-back as well. What an exciting team we've built here. And all of our Wonderkids we signed last season are now just rotational players for us. Britos, Romano, Mwanski, and Avramenko all here. Vito Roque as a backup as well. It's pretty damn dangerous. So let's see if this is the year that we think it is, and we turn Coventry into champions of the world. Well, the Carabao Cup continues to elude us, which is very frustrating. We have lost to Wolves in the 3rd round. And in the FA Cup, we end up losing to Aston Villa. Well, that's not really what we're interested in. In the league phase, in the Champions League, we showed our true quality, finishing in the top 8, moving straight to the round of 16. So we finished on 19 points. In the round of 16, we faced up against Eintracht Frankfurt and we absolutely battered them. Ethan Nwaneri scoring there, which was the 5th in a 6-3 aggregate victory. Avramenko getting on the right-hand side before the ball eventually finds to Patrick Dorgu for a 6-3 win. The quarterfinals, though, were going to be more difficult. We were facing up against Barcelona, led by Victor Gyökeres, Lamine Yamal, Oscar Glau, and Pedri. And the first leg at the Coventry Arena was a 1-1 draw, meaning we had to go to the Nou Camp, where we get off to a fantastic start as Leif Davis sent behind our Argentinian striker Ruben Peralta to give us the 1-goal lead. But Barcelona were absolutely no pushovers. I've just showed you their ridiculous squad, and Pedri eventually finds Oscar Glau, who started the move to make it 1-1. But when it came down to penalties, Openda missed the first of the game, while once again we scored every single one, showing we are absolute penalty demons in a 5-4 victory. The semis were going to be up against a very strong PSG side with Rodrigo, Gonçalo Ramos and Kvaratskhelia leading, and once again it was a 1-1 draw in the home leg, this time saved by a 95th minute Fernandinho penalty. And in the second leg, we nearly needed penalties once again, the game going all the way to the 120th minute, but Britos fired home and sent us to the final of the Champions League, where we'd be facing a Manchester City side, which led by Haaland, Savinho, Vinicius Jr., Foden, Wirtz and Lavia, Gvardiol, Diaz, Scalvini, Rico Lewis and Bart Verbruggen, has just come 6th in the Premier League on 65 points. Now, we finished in 4th place on 73, but if we beat Manchester City, and we do in the Champions League, we're going to class that as Coventry taking over the world and the Premier League just being that little bit too difficult. And well, to be honest, it took a serious amount of time for this game to get going. In fact, the 67th minute, and it was an own goal from Ruben Diaz with almost a striker's move to the front post to score to make it 1-0. But of course, for us. Now, Man City are going to bounce back. Erling Haaland, he's still pretty good, even in the year 2030, which made the game 1-1. But this Coventry side that we have built is fantastic and just full of English Wonderkid talent, which is one of my favourite things. Harvey Elliott funds Ruben Peralta to make it 2-1, and we are going to grab the 3rd in this game as well. Adam Wharton bursting from that DM position, kind of back to Dorgu to find Lewis Miley for an outrageous goal for 3-1. While City did bounce back in the 96th minute as Vinny Jr. found Yan Couto to eventually find Pablo Torre to make it 3-2. It wasn't enough, and Coventry are Champions League winners. Now, apologies if you wanted to see us win the Premier League as well, but I see winning the Champions League as the absolute epitome of football, and this is the team that we done it with. James Trafford was fantastic. Milan Van Evjik stayed from day one to become a Coventry legend. Dean Huijsen and Beraldo were signings from very early on. Dorgu, a missing piece in that left-back role. Adam Wharton in DM. Harvey Elliott at right centre mid. And well, Lampard, he wasn't actually as good as I thought he was going to be. He did score 9 goals, got 3 assists, got a 7.05 this season. But I won't be having any claims that having a prime Lampard won us the Champions League, because he was actually quite nullified. I mean, having the players like Lewis Miley, Luis Enrique, Johansson, Elliott, Nwaneri actually overshadowed Lampard, but was still very fun to get him in the team. Nwaneri was a great cam for us, Vitor Roque and Peralta up front. If you guys did enjoy, do me a massive favour, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel, and you know what's happening. I'll speak to you guys next time. That was cringy.